Hey, Mika, we have a decision from Judge Scott McAfee of the Fulton County Superior Court. In a 23-page decision this morning, he finds that there is not an actual conflict of interest that was proven by the defendants here, but he also finds that there's significant appearance of impropriety that infects the entire current structure of the prosecution team. And therefore, he gives Fani Willis a choice. She can either choose to remove herself and her entire office from the prosecution of this case, or she can determine that Nathan Wade, the special assistant district attorney who has been helming the leadership of this case, can himself be removed from the case, which would allow her and the remainder of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office to go forward. Mika, that's a victory for Fani Willis here.
Apparently, what the judge found was that it did not create an actual conflict of interest as required under Georgia law because the amounts were small. But certainly, in any event, to say that this has been a disastrous week for the credibility of the Fulton County DA is certainly an understatement. They look terrible.
And I want to talk about the hearings itself, because we were playing them. We heard, of course, from Fani Willis herself. What stood out to you about the hearing, from Willis's testimony to the arguments on both sides?
Well, her testimony struck me, and I think many others who do this for a living, as beyond belief. Her demeanor was terrible. There was evidence that certainly contradicted what she said. And I think a reasonable person might find she even perjured herself as well as Wade. So, I mean, if this is the person who's in charge of prosecuting one of the most high profile criminal cases in the country now and in the past several decades, you know, that's problematic. So factoring all of this in, factoring in the judge's decision, which did criticize her and even said there could be other issues that arise for her, such as ethical issues, professional discipline, whatnot. It's just, she looks awful in all of this. And we all know it's going to happen. Wade is going to get tossed overboard and Willis will stay on. But I mean, again, her credibility is so damaged. This is going to be political gold for Trump, certainly, although they may be disappointed in what the judge did.
The DA were to step aside, as we mentioned, this will delay the trial even further because a new prosecutor's office will have to take on this case, go through the files, go through the evidence, go through everything that this office has already worked through. Yeah, absolutely right. And this is not, I'm saying something that I think you all know if you're watching this, this is not a normal case. It is a particularly complex one with exceedingly high stakes and incredibly well-known, prominent defendants that are well defended as well. So any new district attorney's office, if it gets to that point, and we don't know, it's all going to hinge on DA Willis's decision on what to do of these two options. But if she chooses to keep Nathan Wade on the case, well, that means really no one stays on the case. Her whole office is disqualified. And what happens procedurally in Georgia is that the oversight body for prosecutors statewide, known as the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, will in effect take custody of the case. And it will then be their responsibility to find a new home, a new district attorney to pursue the case. That process of finding that new home could take months. The new DA, once they are onto the case, will surely take months just to get up to speed on the more than 19 total defendants that were in this case. They've got to reread all the evidence. And then importantly, they have full autonomy over what happens in that case. So if we get to a point where this case finds a new home, a new DA is overseeing it, they may decide to pursue it in some other form. That this is all hypothetical here. We're telescoped way out, but they could decide maybe some of these defendants they don't want to pursue after all. So this decision DA Fani Willis has to make has some major ramifications. Yeah, and we do know that 4 defendants, they did take pleas. If a different prosecutor's office were to take on this case, will those plea agreements still stay in place? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Plea agreement, those are finalized. Those are done.
All right. But it appears that Ms. Fani Willis is at the moment getting hit from every angle. You have the Georgia State Senate completely independently launch their investigation into this matter, the one that we just read about. Then you also have the chairman of the Fulton County Audit Committee launching a separate investigation into the supposed misuse of county funds. Then you also have the House Judiciary Committee at the federal level launching their own official investigation into Mr. Nathan Wade and whether or not federal money flowed through Fulton County to him. Then you have the presiding judge in the actual RICO case against President Trump and his 18 other co-defendants. He's also demanding answers from Ms. Fani Willis, giving her a deadline of this upcoming Friday to answer questions in writing regarding this whole supposed affair. Then You also have the divorce proceedings between Mr. Nathan Wade and his actual wife, Ms. Jocelyn Wade, in which details about this alleged affair are beginning to come to light one after the other.
A Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals, issued arrest warrants for those who are charged. I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender.
With a judge in Georgia, Scott McAfee, quashing 6 counts in the Georgia election case.
These 6 counts that were killed were against former President Trump and 5 of his associates, including Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, John Eastman, Ray Smith, and Bob Cheeley. All of these quashed counts have to do with charges related to solicitation of violation of oath of office.
Scott McAfee threw out charges that accuse former President Trump and several of his co-defendants of pressuring public officers to violate their oaths as part of an alleged effort to overturn the 2020 election. McAfee said District Attorney Fani Willis and her prosecutors were not specific enough about the violations, writing, "The lack of detail concerning an essential legal element is fatal."
The judge writes, as written, these 6 counts contain all the essential elements of the crimes, but fail to allege sufficient detail regarding the nature of their commission. The judge goes on to write they do not give the defendants enough information to prepare their defenses intelligently.
Yeah, a lot has happened surrounding this case. A state Senate committee started hearing testimony last week about the relationship between Willis and Nathan Wade, the man she hired to lead the Trump case. They're accused of misusing taxpayer funds and crossing ethical boundaries. They've admitted they were romantically involved, but they deny any conflict of interest or misuse of public funds. Meanwhile, 2 people have entered the race to replace Willis as district attorney, and 2 other people are challenging Judge McAfee, Scott McAfee, who is presiding over the Trump case.
This letter comes as Republican committee members claim Willis has failed to send documents subpoenaed as they investigate allegations that she mishandled government funds.
All options are on the table, but I expect her to comply.
U.S. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan says Fulton County lead prosecutor Fani Willis has one last chance to submit documents requested or further action will be taken. The committee is looking into allegations of misuse of federal money during the Georgia election interference case investigation.
On all the communications, we got very little from her when we sent the subpoena, so we want the communications both internal and any communications she may have had with the federal government, particularly the Justice Department, regarding these grant dollars.
In a 3-page letter sent Thursday, the committee acknowledges the DA's office sent what they call a narrow set of documents, but they say it's not enough.
A whistleblower has come forward and says she's not just got this ridiculous lawsuit going, but it looks like she also mismanaged, mishandled, misspent, allegedly misspent federal grant dollars.
Jordan claims Willis fired the whistleblower when they tried to stop the DA's office from using the federal money for other purposes like travel, computers, and swag. The DA denies those claims. The letter gives Willis and her office until noon on March 28th to comply. I asked Jordan if this move is politically motivated.
I say Fani Willis's attack on President Trump is politically motivated. I mean, this is a ridiculous action in and of itself. But our focus in Congress is to do oversight of the use of federal funds, particularly funds that are coming from the Department of Justice.